Here's an unusual question. Dear Dr. Kleeman, I have noticed you end each house call segment with the line, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay fit. What is the significance of the stay happy part? Good question. You know, there's been an impressive amount of research done recently on the health benefits of happiness. In the mid-90s, scientific journals published about 100 studies on sadness for every one study on happiness. But that is all changing. In fact, there's now a field of positive psychology devoted to this subject. So let's explore what we know and how it can benefit your health and your life. Now, you might think that happiness is something that you're born with, and you'd be partly correct. Studies have shown that the capacity for happiness is genetically predetermined, about 50%. But that leaves 50% that can be developed. It's also been shown that happiness declines between age 18 and 50 and then increases between 50 and 85. We're generally happier in our 80s than we are at 18. There have been many fascinating studies done on the effects of happiness, but none quite so famous as the Nun study. This study began in 1986 and involved 768 Roman Catholic sisters who amazingly agreed to donate their brains for study when they died. They all had written an autobiographical essay upon joining the sisterhood. Now, the essays were analyzed for a number of factors, including whether or not the sister was happy. It turns out that the nuns who expressed more positive emotions in their autobiographies lived up to 10 years longer than those expressing fewer positive emotions. At age 85, 90% of the most cheerful nuns were still alive, compared to only 34% of the least cheerful nuns. At 94, 54% of the most cheerful nuns were living versus only 11% of the least cheerful. In addition, 80% of the unhappy nuns developed Alzheimer's disease compared to only 10% of the happy nuns. Now here's the amazing part. When they examined the brains of the nuns, they discovered that many of the brains of the happier nuns actually showed changes that should have produced symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, and yet they didn't show the symptoms. It appears that happier people are somehow protected from the devastating effects of Alzheimer's. Now, this confirms other studies on happiness that show that a positive mood reduces stress-related hormones, increases immune function, and helps the heart recover more quickly after exertion. There's strong evidence that happiness improves our quality of life, our health, and our longevity. But what is the magic formula for obtaining it? Based on research, there seems to be three components to happiness. Now, the first, as we've already discussed, is genetics. The second is environmental, both past and present. The environment of childhood and how we were raised is part of that component. We call the first two categories nature and nurture. Together, they account for about 60% of our capacity for happiness. Since we can't change nature or nurture, let's look at the third component, called intentional activities. Now, this is where happiness can be cultivated through attitude and action. Now, there are many items on the list, but here are my 7 favorites, one for each day of the week. Number 1, find in your life what really makes your heart sing. What is it that you most love to do? It might be your career, or a hobby, or just spending time with your family, but cherish that time and protect it. Number 2, learn to appreciate the things you have, or, as they say, count your blessings. Maybe even write them down. Try to make the cup half full, not half empty. You may find that the list is bigger than you thought. Number 3, make sure you thank the people who have made your life better. Maybe a friend, a family member, or a complete stranger. But let them know you're grateful for what they have done, especially if it involves some sacrifice. Moving on to number 4, don't spend any more time than necessary on negative thoughts or people. In other words, forgive and forget. Try to put your bad experiences and relationships behind you and move on. Don't live in the past, but embrace the present and especially the future. And remember, your character is defined by how you deal with adversity. Number 5, dedicate your time to help others with acts of kindness. It may be something small or something big, but you'll find that the more you sacrifice, the more happiness you get back. As a general rule, your time is more valuable than your money. 6, cultivate relationships. They may just be the most important thing in life. Try to meet and get to know new friends and colleagues. And don't forget the ones you were born with. Call someone in your family that you haven't talked to in a while and let them know that you love them and are thinking about them. And lastly, number 7, carpe diem. Seize the day. Climb a mountain or go for a run. Go buy those new shoes you were looking for. Start that new project you've been putting off. Surprise someone by showing up with flowers, or maybe just showing up. Laugh more, sing more, love more. Remember, today is the first day of the rest of your life. Make it count. If you have questions concerning exercise, health, or life in general, the doctor is in. Just email me at housecalls@thedoctorsworkout.com, and I will try to add them to house calls. And as you have heard me say so many times, stay happy, stay healthy, and stay fit.